So after all that time of everyone being upset about Heisuke not really doing much this arc and just being comedy relief to bounce off of Shin, if Atari and Heisuke finish the arc by pulling off one of the biggest and coolest heists of the century by defeating Torres in battle, it might just be one of the best redemptions of all time. Either way, whether or not that actually happens, Heisuke, in my opinion, compared to Shin, had already proven himself after the Kamihate battle to be more than enough of an ally to Sakamoto in the fights to come. And even though Heisuke does probably still have plenty of areas he can improve on, when Heisuke puts his mind to it, he clearly is just as much of an order level assassin as Kamihate would be. And with the reveal that Pisuke, the bird that always follows around Heisuke, is actually a constant flow of good luck for not just Heisuke, but vice versa. Heisuke is one of the perfect good luck items for Pisuke. Not only does it make sense how Heisuke has been constantly hitting these 360 no-scope trick shots, but it stands to reason this might just be the fight where Atari is able to make use of that last ounce of luck she was talking about that's left in her hourglass. Most of this chapter kicks off 30 minutes before Shin unlocked his ESP Command Ultra Instinct upgrade and surpassed 10Q in the fight, and explains how Torres and Sakamoto both ended up in what was supposed to be Shin's crowning achievement arc. One of the most interesting things that I think we get out of this chapter is that, contrary to popular belief and the weird bromance they have developed over the course of the prison arc, it's actually revealed Taro and Torres did not show up together. Both of them had entirely separate missions and reasons for showing up here. Torres was actually sent here by the leader of the Order, Oki, in order to retrieve Atari and rescue her from people that might be planning to abduct her. Which, one, I have to say, thank God Shin and Heisuke were here on their own accord, because if they weren't, Torres clearly would have failed at saving Atari. I mean, Atari would have been choked out by 10Q by the time Bro walked in, and I don't want to hear anything about he would have moved faster if Shin and Heisuke weren't coming. He didn't even know they were there. But two, it means that the JAA is either completely in the dark and unaware of how Atari's fortune powers actually work, or if they just plain don't care and just want to make sure no one else can have her. And knowing what we do know about Chairman Asaki, even though he is mostly an enigma and a very mysterious person, we do know for sure he is an asshole and would definitely be the type of character to have a "if I can't have her, no one can" type of mentality. Oki even claims that, according to Asaki, if they were able to use Atari at her peak, anyone that's able to make use of the weapon that is the fortune teller could even rival an assassin like Takamura in power, which I have a hard time believing because of how much of a smoke demon Takamura actually is. However, this is the same girl that was able to turn a bunch of random clock gadgets and parts into a fully working and loaded gun. So I'm not going to argue with that. Which does make me wonder if Atari has just been intentionally letting her luck run out so that way she could not be used by the JAA anymore. As Torres does explain, most people don't really get to choose the life that they live. Atari was deemed as an asset by the chairman, so she is stuck under the JAA's thumb whether she likes it or not. But it also makes me wonder that if all of this was intentional or a facade, and Atari can just get her luck back if she ever wants to. For Asaki to cherish Atari like a coveted weapon, even when she's been utterly useless for so long, because remember, we were told the only reason she was locked up is because all of her fortunes started to fall apart whenever they had anything to do with Slur. We know that actually her luck was just running out and it was just convenient timing. But we actually find out from Oki that apparently Asaki locked Atari up not because she was useless, but because he didn't want anyone else to use her as a weapon. So it's really impossible to tell what is the truth right now. Whereas Sakamoto's mission is much more cut and dry. He was simply responding to a distress signal, like some kind of Marvel superhero going off because his sidekick was in trouble. He crashes through the roof with full-on gusto and just immediately kicks Torres in the side of the face and saves Atari at the last moment. And again, whether Shin purposely set off the name tag or not, we do have to remember that if he did, up until about 10 minutes ago, Shin and everyone was getting their ass kicked. So if he unintentionally hit the distress signal button, it would make sense. But clearly, based on the way Atari calls it her lucky item, it's most likely just another good fortune. as well as the fact that Shin is surprised to even see Sakamoto in the prison. With Shin only seconds away from ending Tenkyu's life, Sakamoto has no choice but to rush to his side after hearing from Heisuke that Shin is planning on quitting the store and killing someone. Sakamoto has no choice but to leave Heisuke alone and to hold down the fort for 10 minutes while Sakamoto leaves. But because Torres is specifically hunting down Atari, if Sakamoto, someone of his level, isn't around to keep Atari safe, what's stopping Torres from just achieving his mission? So now, it's up to the one remaining surviving guard, Heisuke, Peasuke the bird, and what's ever left of Atari's good luck to take on an opponent that not even Sakamoto himself has yet to conquer. Torres is claiming that Sakamoto is making a really big gamble by leaving Atari in the hands of a kid like Heisuke. But ironically, it was only moments ago that Torres was claiming it takes an actual gamble to change the course of fate. However, as usual, Sakamoto doesn't see this as some kind of luck-based chance. Sakamoto fully and wholeheartedly trusts Heisuke. He knows Heisuke will accomplish the job that Sakamoto asks of him, to the point that Sakamoto says it's not a gamble, it's a sure thing. Whether or not you want to argue that Sakamoto was right to leave Atari behind or not, if Heisuke will be able to use his rifle and Peasuke to hold Torres off effectively, it will always be satisfying to see how far Heisuke has come, even if he fails. The fact that all of these characters have truly become like family, it's beautiful. And if that is the case, there's no resignation from family. You can't just quit. Which brings us to exactly where we left off last chapter. Right before Shin puts that final blow into Tenkyu and ends Tenkyu's life for good, Sakamoto uses all of his speed to catch up and stop Shin from making a choice he won't be able to come back from. And much to Shin's confusion, Sakamoto tells Shin that he's wrong in believing that this prison is where he belongs and that he's anything like Tenkyu. And if anyone understands, it's Sakamoto, who has seen Shin at his best and his worst. And according to the flashback that we're about to go into, Sakamoto's known the boy since he was 13 years old. If there's anyone that would be able to pull Shin out of this bad state of mind, it's him. Which is nice. It's a great callback and a parallel to just before the Bangkok arc, when Sakamoto was trying to leave and take on all of his burdens on his own. Shin was there for him. It's these two characters that will always be able to help each other see the light, no matter how dark it gets. It's that maturity inside of Sakamoto, the lessons that he's learned throughout his life, that allow him to be such a powerful influence and mentor for Shin, as well as it's the fire of Shin's youth and his willingness to get back up no matter what that reminds Sakamoto what he's fighting for and what he's truly made of. As Tenkyu lay bleeding out and coughing up blood, his lungs punctured by Shin's previous attacks and ensuring Tenkyu will eventually die, Sakamoto attempts to make every effort possible to save Tenkyu here, despite the fact that if he does live, he might come to try and threaten Aoi and Hana. Shin cries out, saying Tenkyu has to die. A slime bag like Tenkyu that fully intends to kill an innocent wife and daughter just to make Taro feel pain does not deserve life. And while, personally, I wholeheartedly would agree with that sentiment, especially in the setting of Sakamoto days in this assassin eat assassin world, I think we should really just stop pussyfooting around and axe these guys. Honestly, I've got a long list of characters that I think need to go after Tenkyu, starting with Kanagori. He's been around for too long. But I digress. Besides my Kanagori hatred, Sakamoto cut Shin off as he pleads for Sakamoto to tell Shin Tenkyu can't die. Not because Tenkyu doesn't deserve death, but because he personally can't allow Shin to become a murderer. Shin doesn't think things like that matter because how Shin sees it, he's a bad person. The fact that he is willing to accept that death is what's necessary here to keep others safe, whether you want to classify that as a bad person or not in your book, it's what Shin believes, especially with how ingrained the Sakamoto family rules are into him. By admitting he's not a good person, he's undoing everything that he's done to grow and fit in at Sakamoto. But instead of denying any of that, Sakamoto actually reaffirms Shin's belief. He tells Shin that he knows Shin isn't a good person. He knows exactly what kind of person Shin is, and he shouldn't have to worry about things like that. Which, coming from someone like Sakamoto, the world's greatest hitman that has probably had to take countless lives and had to reconcile with the things that he's done time and time again, thinking to himself, does he truly believe this life, this beautiful family he has. Does he deserve it? I mean, even a couple chapters ago, we saw Sakamoto wrestle with this fact that he might not be able to ever come home again now that he's a target of the Order. But still, Sakamoto carries on. He comes home every day and realizes that he has to at least try to be the person he thinks he should be. You don't have to be a good person. You just have to try to become one every day. That's the hard part. Got the sign right there. If there's anyone who could understand that one fact and empathize even with the idea that Shin isn't a good person, and there's always the option of just giving it all up, going rogue and jumping back into your assassin ways, Taro Sakamoto understands better than anyone. And I believe what Sakamoto has learned to keep himself carrying on is the exact lesson that he's going to hope to impart to Shin during this flashback that we're about to enter. As Sakamoto and another assassin overlook a room of new recruits that he'll be working with, he notices there's a young kid about the age of 13 on the side of the room, and apparently the assassins were gonna kill him because he was sneaking around headquarters and wouldn't reveal who he was working for, just to make an example out of someone like that. And upon closer inspection, it's a young Shin. What will this flashback reveal to us? Will it give us some much needed information about Shin? Where he comes from? If he's actually an orphan from Alkamar? Could it be he's maybe just the child of someone from Alkamar? We still don't know who Dr. Azakura's friend was that dropped Shin off at the lab. Or could it just be some short motivational story to inspire Shin to not change his ways and stick with the Sakamoto gang? Especially now that he's got these new powers and the strive to be a better person. I mean, if Shin's beating people like Tenkyu, we definitely could use some strength like that in our final battle with the Order and Slur's gang. After all of this and after the flashback, we have to imagine that just leaves Sakamoto, who is the only one who's yet to unlock his full potential. But something tells me he's right on the cusp of it with that house husband lesson he learned. But guys, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, I hope you enjoyed this chapter and this video. Hit the like button if you did, and subscribe so you don't miss any future Sakamoto Days videos, reviews, or any other series you may read weekly. There is a break next week, unfortunately, but you already know I'll have plenty of content to keep you guys held over until we get some more new chapters. Guys, have a good day. Peace, peace, peace. Drink water.